So we're about to listen to this conversation between um, Candace Owens and Cornel West. Okay. I love to hear this type of convo because it allows individuals or for us to be able to see a debate between the Democrats, or let's just say, and I don't want to say Democrats and Republicans, let's just say the right and the left. Okay. Because Cornel West, he says he's not a Democrat, but actually he does say he's a Democrat, but he doesn't. He says he's not a liberal. That's what it is. But Candace Owens does say that she is a Republican. However, if she was to hear someone speaking from the left the way Donald Trump was speaking, then at that point she would have voted for the left. This is what she says. So it's a very interesting conversation. I'm not going all the way through the whole thing, but we will touch on some of these important pieces, right? Because actually, I don't want to see important pieces because I think the whole thing was relatively important, but I just want to have some dialogue in regards to some of the things that were said.
Black people can get very upset with me because I say you want me to focus on white supremacy when we know that 95% of black Americans that are killed by other black people.
19 a day.
95%.
Yeah.
So my chances, I should be more afraid sitting next to a black man. All right, then if you're looking at just statistics, and people don't like that because that's the truth. They don't like that. Oh no, it feels better. Let's focus on the white supremacy. Let's focus on this area, which basically never happens if you're looking at the statistics because you don't want to talk about fixing our communities. And when I spoke at the White House 2 weeks ago, I spoke about Tyshawn Lee.
It does happen.
Yeah, but 95%
disproportionately
every year,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
of black Americans that are killed in a homicide event are killed by other black people, and that's not even including Hispanics. So maybe another 3% were killed by Hispanics. Who knows? We're talking about a slither of people, black Americans that are killed by whites in this country annually, and yet the focus on it would make you think it's happening every single day. That's my problem because you want to know what that says? That says that they're purposely having us focus on things they're never going to fix our community. Okay? If we want to talk about fixing our communities, you got to talk about gang violence because and I spoke about that at the White House. Tyshawn Lee, a 9-year-old kid who got shot point blank, lured into an alley and shot point blank because of gang violence, because someone had a hit against his father, so they decided to kill his son.
Yeah.
The guy was laughing in court. Everybody turns away from it. We're not.
That's a horrible situation. This is actually the first time I'm hearing about this. I didn't know that there was a young 9-year-old child that was shot. Um, because there's so much news. There's so many things happening, in the world, and it's like something of such importance like that. The person had an issue with the kid's dad, and he lured the child into the alley and then shot him. And then while he was in court, he was laughing at the fact that he shot the child. So obviously there's some very sick people out there, but at the same time, we're not getting we can look for this information. I mean, I don't get sent information the way Candace does, I'm sure, but we're not going to really get all this information unless we're watching the news 24/7, and majority of us don't have time to do that. There's so many other things that we need to
Not
do.
gonna talk about it because it was happening in our community. Let's instead go out and protest in the strange event that a black American gets shot by a police officer unarmed. And this is the crap that I say. They have you looking at something that's never, ever, ever going to matter, right? That's never going to fix anything because they know that we're slaughtering ourselves at a faster rate, and that's what they want.
But two things. One is that there is a difference between a policeman who kills a person and a citizen killing another citizen. Because the police represent.
True, but they're killing 19 a day.
No.
19 a
Well,
day.
I mean,
the
the
blacks
numbers
are like
absolutely.
10 a year.
And we have to speak the truth.
Yeah, I agree.
And so the truth that you talk about in terms of disproportionately black on black violence is something that you have to speak to. But the second.
So the thing about black and black violence is that black people are 13% of the population in America, and um, they commit 50% of the crimes, from what I believe. So I mean, that is completely disproportionate in regards to the amount of black people that are in the country. So there's obviously some sort of an issue of some sort that needs to be addressed or looked into in regards to the black community. I can say these things because I'm a brown fox. Keep that in mind. Actually, you know what? I personally believe anyone should have the ability to say these things because these are statistics that are absolutely 110% true. and it's something that really needs to be looked into. Um, I think crime is uh, at this present time in the United States. I'm not sure if Trump did anything, but in the United States, it was very lenient with the whole catch and release and all these other things. So there was a lot of leniency going on in regards to crime in the U.S. And hopefully Trump is able to do something in regards to that. But there's no excuse for the black community to have 13% population, but yet 50% of the crimes. There needs to be something done. And I'm not gonna say anything more. Let's listen.
Second point is this, though, that there are a number of folk in the black community who both talk about it and try to organize against the black on black violence.
So why don't they have the platform that these Black Lives Matter groups have?
Well, one is because you got a liberal media that does not want to put a spotlight on black people organizing themselves and dealing with problems inside of the black community.
Is that what?
So what is the reason why the liberal media, because we all know that the media out there right now is currently run by the liberals. So what is the reason why the liberal media does not want black people to be able to um, unite or come together in order to solve issues within their community?
Would help us.
Well, I mean, that's a certain white supremacist sensibility.
Right, and that's what I say. So agree.
Absolutely, but that does not mean, though, that you don't want to keep these police accountable when they shooting these young folk day in and day out.
Accountable. They go
Not
to
day in
jail.
and day
They
out.
lose their
They
pension.
go to jail. You got one going to jail, brother. You got one going to jail out of all
Let's
these
correct
shootings.
the record. This is not happening day in, day out. In the year where they made it seem like it was the absolute worst, in 2016, 16 unarmed black men were shot and killed. By rate, more white men were killed by.
It's 1,000
But also,
in the
unarmed,
men,
unarmed can mean was armed. It can mean trying to kill you with the car.
That's correct. 16, even if we're being generous, 16, you had a higher chance as a black American man of being struck by lightning than you did of being shot unarmed. Okay, white men were killed by police officers at a higher rate, as were Hispanic men. We know none of their names because it was a narrative. It was all about the black vote. They draw up a narrative. They decide who they're going to go after. In 2016, it happened to be police officers. We're going to see who it is in 2020. This is not about helping to save black lives. You can't tell me that you're focusing on 16 lives when a more unsafe place for a black person to be would be in its mother's womb. We're slaughtering our offspring at a way faster.
Wow, that is actually really true because um, black women are more likely to have abortions, and they're killing black children at a very, very high rate on a daily basis. So Candace is right. The most dangerous place for a black person is in a black woman's womb right now. And it's a shame to say, it's very sad to say, but it's truth.
Faster rate, and we have more black babies being aborted than born alive in cities like New York. So to me, it's all a farce, and I think it is because the liberal media.
But you and I are critical of liberal media, but I think you have to have a bit more open-mindedness at the spectrum and the continuum. We've got statistics on the percentages of black men who will be pulled aside in the car. The percentage of men who, when we went to jail in New York City about 8 years ago here with the stop and frisk, when you had over 90% of the folks stop and frisk were young black brothers and brown brothers.
Those are
not killings. Those are not killings.
Right.
They were disproportionately pulling over whites.
No. Oh, not at all.
As they appeared in the crime stats, yes.
No.
The way
Even
blacks and whites appeared in the New York crime stats, they were pulled over less than that. There was more whites pulled over than they appeared in the crime stats.
But you remember the woman who
Bloomberg even considered that.
Who was the judge when she went through all the statistics and said, "My God, under Bloomberg,
yes,
you had
and she was later fired for incompetence."
No.
She was a boob.
Yeah, no.
I'll say something. I'll ask a question.
Sure.
Black Americans, we make up 13% of the population, and we account for over 50% of all the homicides in this country. Is it possible that we're getting arrested more because we're committing more of the crimes?
Oh, no, in terms of getting arrested.
And I'm talking
for a particular
homicides.
crime.
13% of the
But
population,
we're
over
talking about police
57%.
killing or being pulled over
Okay, so
for driving in the
saying
car and so forth. When in terms of the sheer number of homicides, you've got a disproportionate number of poor black people, disproportionately men.
But we're disproportionately
who
committing the
have
crimes in this country, all of them, across the
no,
board.
not all of them. No, not white collar crime, not
that's
Wall
okay.
Street crime.
I'm talking about
You're talking about
violent crimes.
you're talking about like
White collar
murder.
crimes.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely,
you're
absolutely.
correct
No,
about that.
you're right
It just
about
sounds
that.
like there's a lot
Absolutely.
of disingenuous agenda
That's my
with the
thing. It's
left.
like, just be
and at the
real.
beginning of
But
this,
the
you were
problem
saying
is, though, you got to have a press that is open enough to deal with all of these issues candidly, and
the
that's what
press
we
is
don't
obsessed with the Nazi shit. They're obsessed with hate, hate, hate. We live in a racist society. It's way worse than it was in the 70s and the 80s. We've gone backwards in time. And the thing I hate about that narrative, like I've got these friends, Max Hare, John Kinsman, they're Proud Boys. Proud Boys are a multi-racial club. There's gays, Jews in it, and they all love Trump. The DNC is pounding on them. They're a hate group. These guys are getting sentenced next week, Max Hare and John Kinsman. 3.5 years would be best case scenario, could be 15, because Antifa jumped them, and it was like the third Antifa fight of the night. Antifa jumped them, and they beat up Antifa. And the court said, you beat them up too much. And because of the Nazi narrative, the jury went, throw the book at him. One of the guys has 4 black kids, and he might...
I would say George Soros said that they beat them up too much, or George Soros said, you know what, these Antifa guys are my guys. I want these guys arrested, and I want you to throw the book at them. Make an example of them, is what he probably said. But I mean, I don't know too much about the Proud Boys and all those other things, but according to what he's saying, it just it's disproportionate in regards to what's going on in the world. Because I mean, Antifa has been terrorizing people all over the place. Black Lives Matter, even at one point, was terrorizing people. I understand they were upset about George Floyd, and that's a whole other scenario, right? That's a whole other thing. But the point is that they were terrorizing people, and they did not get the same type of time that people that, let's just say January 6 people that were part of January 6th. I'm not saying that whatever happened there was correct or right. I'm just saying that the punishment didn't fit the crime.
might not see those kids for 15 years because he fought back after an ambush, and it's the idiotic Nazi narrative.
They call me a Nazi sympathizer. They call me a person that supports Hitler. I mean, you're exactly right. They overuse that term, and the problem is that when you do that, when you're willing to paint such a broad stroke that you start calling black people white supremacists, it becomes very hard to take you seriously.
They call it multiracial white supremacy.
But one of the ironies of Charlottesville was, well, 2 things. One, I saw a black man marching with the neo-Nazis when we were being spit at and cussed out.
No.
Well, you know why? Because
He was not a neo-Nazi.
No, I didn't say
There was-
neo-Nazi. He's marching
No,
with
he wasn't.
them.
There was 2 rallies that day. There was the statues.
That's what I was gonna say. It was about
and
the
then there was the
statues.
neo-Nazi crap after.
And it was
When
separate.
Trump said there's good people on both sides,
That's what he was talking
about the statue
Yep.
rally.
There were people that were
No,
just there.
but-
There were just
2
there.
rallies.
Black people that were there protesting because they didn't want the statue torn down
Yeah,
at
but-
all.
It's funny that that's still a talking point for Democrats and the left about this good people on both sides in order to make Trump look like he's some sort of racist. It's amazing how they just keep spitting the same garbage over and over and over, even though it's been debunked. They just keep spinning. Look at his face. He's like, "Oh my gosh!" They just keep shutting me down on every turn. And look at him. Looks like he has a bad case of indigestion, or he needs to use the bathroom. I mean, they keep shutting him down on every turn, and for whatever reason, it's like he just keeps spinning the same trash over and over and over and over. And it's really sickening. This is why I love these types of debate, because they, you have Candace Owens, who has, to me, she is clear-minded in most cases. I mean, sometimes I'm like, Candace, seriously, but in majority of the cases that I've seen, she's very clear-minded. She's very well spoken. Cornel West is also very well spoken, but I'm not sure in regards to his clear-mindedness, because I mean, how could you be a scholar and not have the ability to do some research and look into this, um, good people on both sides think from Trump and have an understanding the same way I and everyone else that reads it or does any research into it can look at it and clearly say, oh, okay, so Trump was actually meaning these guys, not these guys. So if I can see it and so many other people out there can see it, why is it that Cornel West can't see it? Right. And this is why I feel like a lot of people on the left are shrills. Like they're either paid to spit opposite narrative against Trump due to, I want to say TDS, but I want to say TDS is actually something completely different because these guys, I feel like they might be getting paid to do this. Like Cornel West might his whole existence as being a voice for the left is predicated on things like this. So I mean, but let's just keep going.
But
And
these
then they
folks, I'm
mix
talking about the
them with
one
the
with the mask
neo-Nazis.
and had the live ammunition with the neo-Nazi signs.
What the Dukes? I mean the Dukes Hazard, the Confederate flag, or neo-Nazi signs.
It was a combination of Confederate flags and neo-Nazi signs. You know, there's about 29 groups there. So it was a heterogeneous group of right-wing folk willing and involved in violent activity.
That whole thing was a bizarre shit show that we talk about way too much.
Antifa to you, Antifa actually saved a number of our lives from being attacked in Charlottesville.
gosh.
Because
You gotta
there
be
was
fucking
all
kidding
of
me.
a sudden, we were standing there, and as they walked by, after about 20 minutes, it got more and more intense. Police pulled back completely.
That's what jeopardized your life.
Police pulled back
The
completely.
mayor trying to cause a
Yes.
scene.
Well, this was a crucial factor. I agree with that. I agree with that. Police saw what was going on and just sat there.
They were
but
told to.
when,
They were told to.
But all of a sudden, when there was a charge with these ammunition mask on and it coming at us, and we're standing there, the rest of the folk are in their clergy costume. I'm dressed just like I'm dressed now, and all of a sudden, Antifa comes in swinging to protect us.
Well, let me tell you
Now
something.
you see that kind of self-defense is very important. I think a right to self-defense is crucial.
Sure.
But listen,
It's
I
crucial.
can't
Tell that to the victims of Dayton,
let's
Ohio.
not make Antifa sound light because they are a domestic terror group. They've attacked me multiple times. They've thrown things. I was sitting in a restaurant eating breakfast, and they chased me out and threatened my
Well,
life.
that's
And we had to
wrong.
have the
That's
entire
wrong.
police force.
That's
so
wrong.
maybe,
That's wrong.
maybe
They
back
killed
in the
9
day,
people in
maybe
Dayton,
back in the
Ohio.
day,
but
some
that's-
case-
And the fact that Cornel West could sit here and advocate for Antifa of all groups, he can sit here and try to advocate or try to spin a narrative to make it sound like Antifa are good and they do good things in the world. This is just ridiculous. Just listening to it, him trying to spin this is just it's just jaw dropping. And this is the tactic of the left where it's clear as day what the other group is doing. It's clear as day that Antifa is a terrorist group. But yet the left will spin it in a way to make it look like they're saints.
KKK members defended somebody, but to paint them in a light that they're suddenly a great group because they did
No,
one
I'm
thing.
talking about my experience with them.
Yeah,
I got to
but
be
we
true
have
to
to
my
be clear.
experience
They
with them.
are a
Your
domestic-
experience with them is one in which they did something that was wrong. If
Yeah,
they attacked
I
you
was
at
eating
breakfast
breakfast.
and tried to threaten your life,
That's all on camera.
then that's
Yeah,
wrong.
Yeah,
I was
I remember
eating
that.
breakfast, you know?
Well, America's
That's
experience
wrong.
with them is also sending in Antifa guys end up in jail for this bullshit. They end up putting other people in jail. They end up committing suicide because they're in over their heads. And then the Dayton, Ohio shooting was 9 people dead, including the shooter himself. I've counted about 17 deaths that come from Antifa rhetoric
Well,
and
see, I
Antifa
don't know. I
violence.
don't know about that.
That's
They're
more
a
than black
domestic
people that were
terror
killed
group.
by police officers.
Pardon me?
That's more than black people
I
that
don't
were
know
killed by
about
police
Right.
officers.
Okay, look, I have a bad feeling the cops are going to bust this soon. Let's try to get some tangible, hard, concrete things that could help the black community in this country. Give me.
Dear sister, I mentioned one. There has to be honest spotlight casting on realities that fall outside of our ideologies. We had to
That's
be
what we're
candid across the
screaming.
board. We got to be candid about the militarism at the top. We got to be candid about ugly treatment on the bottom. You got to be candid about the wealth inequality. You got to be candid about the issue of personal responsibility.
So free speech.
You got to be. Oh, absolutely. You got to have free speech, but without injurious harm.
Okay, so Candace should be able to talk at any college.
Oh, sure. There's no doubt about that. Now, of course, see, college is a different place than a community. And what I mean by that is that colleges do have the right to decide
Yeah.
who is going to speak there relative to
And they take
what the
federal
issues
funding and
are.
they decided it's only going to be leftist
But
politicians.
it's got to be ideologically and politically diverse. But they have a right to do that. But when it comes to community, that's very different. You have a right to speak any community, any corner, and ought to be protected there as long as you don't engage in injurious harm.
Right.
You see?
I've never, ever, ever advocated for violence. I have never been violent towards any person. I say what I believe. And I think that you'll find, and this is why I think the media is so obsessed with painting us as they did after we had our debate, is that we actually agree on more than we disagree. I think what we disagree on is how we fix it, right? So we totally disagree on how we fix it.
We have a critique of the establishment in both parties. See, your support of Trump means you have an indictment of the conservatism in the Republican Party vis-a-vis its establishment.
That's correct. I think he represents a new form of conservatism, and when he called it a swamp, he was being honest. I mean, there's just people on the left and the right. We were all losing.
But the problem is, see, this is part of the contradiction, though. But when you come in, and then Trump, his attitude toward Wall Street, his attitude toward the military-industrial complex, they expand. They become even more powerful. You see, whereas
if my focus,
he has to hit them head on. He didn't have the courage to hit them. That's my left-wing critique. He doesn't have the courage to hit them head on, but he can spend all his time talking about precious Mexicans and Muslims and other folk.
well, good for the illegals. Got to go. I mean, you know they're harming Black America.
Demonize the precious Mexican
don't
brothers
call
and
them.
sisters.
Don't call
He doesn't
them
demonize
precious.
Mexicans.
Mexicans.
He
It's
does.
illegal.
He talks about the ones
Illegals.
crossing
No,
the
he's
border.
talking about all of them as criminals, all of them as so-and-so. That's just wrong.
First off,
that's wrong.
Foremost, I'm going to say this. First, I'm going to say about illegal immigration, period. We know that under Barack Obama, the United States.
Wouldn't you say though that if you enter the country illegally, that you're an illegal, that you broke that you broke laws there, that you committed some sort of a crime? For Trump to label them all criminals and say that they broke crimes, it's true. Every single one of them, every single one of those individuals that came into the country illegally broke the law. And so he has the right to call them criminals.
States commissions did a report to determine who was harmed by illegal immigration. They determined, and this was a report done by both sides, that Black American men between the ages of 18 and 21 are the people that hurt the most.
Especially in
Because they're
California.
the ones that have to compete. And when they come into these neighborhoods, and they allot it, and he's correct to say, we know that the majority of the drugs coming over the border, where are they going into? Our neighborhoods, right? So to me, it is so crucial for Black Americans to understand that an illegal, anybody that's promoting for open borders and for telling you to flood them in are not people that are trying to help Black America. They know that we are the ones going to have to compete for them.
Why wouldn't Trump say that rather than call them rapists and criminals?
Right, listen.
They're not rapists. They're coming to find to get
A
jobs.
disproportionate number of the illegals crossing the border are rapists.
They are. It's weird.
80% of the girls who
believe
cross
that.
the border get raped
Get
on the
raped.
journey.
80%.
They take birth control on the way over
Yeah.
the border.
That's just
It's
a fact.
just an accepted part of the transition.
Yeah, and that's why it's weird.
Mexico doesn't have room in prisons. They encourage criminals to
Does
cross
that
the
mean
border.
the 11 million precious
30 million.
illegals in this country? You think it's 30?
I think it's 30.
Well, I think most people traditionally say 11 or 12 million.
The
But
leftists.
of those 11 and 12 million, what percentage of those you think are rapists?
A disproportionate number, more than they
Rapists
are
or
represented in the
like just
population.
in general committing crimes?
Well, criminal. He says he called them criminals and rapists, so it'd be both.
Criminals.
I don't know, the way he talks about him is so vicious. It's so
I'm sorry, but if
cold-hearted,
you go
it's
into
so
any of these
callous.
sanctuary
But as
cities
a
and you
Christ-
see
as
the
a
amount
Chri-
of crimes that are being committed because
No,
they're
but-
sanctuary, you can't park your car
But-
in San Francisco for 5 minutes without it getting broken into. Happened to me. I was there literally 5 minutes. Came outside.
But that's
all
been
of our
true
stuff.
for a long time in a lot of hoods, a lot of
Come on.
communities.
California was not the way that it is now.
Well, I'm talking about other communities,
yes.
other communities.
Listen, I'm not.
Yeah,
You're never going to hear me make a blanket statement that all people are this or that. I'm not
Right,
going to say
right.
that all Mexicans are coming to this country. Some of them are literal children that are being used by people, adults that are
That's
trying to get in
true.
here. Like you
That's
cannot. he should be careful not to issue those blanket statements. And listen,
He's
here's what
gotta
I'll
pull
say,
back
by the
on
way.
that. That's ugly
But he
language.
has, because you know what? Then he was a candidate, now he's a president. And he hasn't done those sort of sweeping, statements since then. And people are holding on to it because now he's actually proven himself to be a pretty stand-up president. He's delivering results. He hasn't said anything super harmful to anybody at all. And I agree that illegal immigration is a problem that needs to be tackled. So I'm willing to look over a sentence that he said while he was on the campaign trail and look at what he's actually doing.
He said a number of times, but yeah.
He didn't say it a number of times. He said it one time in a speech. He says, at Fishbreeze, he said they're not giving us their best people, and that's a fact. If they are their best people, the government would be fighting to keep them in their countries because they'd be driving up their economy. Obviously, they're not giving us their best people.
Well, it depends on what you mean by best, too, though. If it's just best in terms of professionals,
likely
in terms
to
of
commit crimes.
education.
Yeah, least likely to commit crimes. Is if they were super educated
No, but
people
you
that
got
were
some
doctors and
professionals
lawyers.
and educated folk in this country and other countries who commit a lot of crimes,
We're
too.
splitting. I think we're
Yes, but
splitting
that's
hairs here.
anecdotal.
Well, I'm agreeing with you that we have to be careful and not demonizing an entire group of people.
Absolutely.
But I hope that you do understand that illegal immigration is something that really harms Black communities first and foremost, and that's a proven fact done by a report that was done under Barack Obama.
But see, I would want to put the stress not so much on that competition. That competition is real. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But my stress is much more on, first, the businessmen and women who come in wanting to exploit and walking away with profits that are just obscene. And this is where I'm with Brother Bernie, as you know, right? I'm much more concerned about that top 1% that comes in a variety of different colors who are getting off with obscene wealth and resources, while those of us who are in the middle classes, working classes, and poor fighting for the crumbs.
Well, then I got to tell you something. You're with him, and if he was elected,
I don't see Trump talking about the critique of Wall Street the way Bernie does.
If Bernie was elected tomorrow, all of those Wall Street people would be sending their money overseas, and they would get out of here
That's the
as
problem.
fast as possible on their planes.
We all
They have the
agree.
resources to. And you
No,
know what
and
happened?
We would see
You know
how
what
big
happened?
a gangsters they really
No,
are.
you know what
They're
happened?
not committed to the
Suddenly
country, they're committed to their own
Correct.
You want to know
Correct.
how we would see it? We'd all be broke. All of the markets would crash. There'd be nothing here because we don't have the entrepreneurial steer. The people that are entrepreneurs are going to leave for countries that allow them to be rewarded based on their hard work. Nobody is going to stay in a country. They say they're going to tax me 75%. I'm leaving. Period. Right? So then you're going to have a system where you have a bunch of people that are standing behind Bernie. The do-nothing people are going to have no money to go around because there is no entrepreneurship. The rich people have fled. It's exactly what happened to Chicago. We know that Bernie's idea of socialist policies does not work. It cannot be implemented. The grievance behind it might be accurate. The application of it does not work. So we have to come up with a better solution then. We're going to take it from the rich people.
But just think of what you just said, though, sister. You're saying that Wall Street has got America with a gun to its head.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, you said it. If in fact Bernie were elected, they would leave the country, no commitment to the country,
It's just common sense.
and
I
watch
would
the
leave
country
too.
go under.
I would leave too. I'm not Wall Street. That's common sense. If you're telling me that they're going to tax me
Are
at 75%.
you saying that your commitment to America is such that you would rather leave the country with
No,
money
my
and watch
commitment to
America
myself
go
and my
under?
family is enough, but I'm not letting you take 75% of my hard work as a girl who came from absolutely nothing and grew up in a rat-infested apartment.
Eisenhower
No
had higher
government.
levels,
Do
my
not care.
sister.
I'm answering your question.
Eisenhower had
And you are
higher
answering my
levels.
question. As a
Would you
girl who
leave
came
under
from nothing and
Eisenhower?
worked for everything that I have, no government is coming in and taking 75% of my income. I would leave. It's not a commitment to an America. It's a commitment to myself and a commitment to common sense.
So, but what I'm saying is, so if you had lived under Dwight Eisenhower's regime where they had 80%,
They had
you would have
80%.
left America?
No one paid that.
No.
That was like
No,
a few movie
they had
stars.
80%, brother.
No one was paying that.
Under
though.
FDR, they had even higher.
I have
You
to
would
look
have
it
left
up.
FDR.
I'm going to plead ignorant because I'd have to look up
You-
because
we'd have to check that out.
sounds high to me.
I'm
80%
telling you,
does not sound accurate,
yes,
so I'm
it
gonna
was for
plead
that
ignorance,
1%,
so I
because
can't
it
debate
was
something.
gradation. You know, it was gradation.
I would
It
have
was
to
for the
plead ignorance.
1%.
It was
but this
for the
was back when
1%,
that
I'm talking about.
1%
It's for
was
the
like
1%. It wasn't for everybody now.
Infinitesimally small percent of the population. Movie stars, moguls were paying those.
90% it was.
Yes, but
Whoa, what do you guys think? Because honestly, Candace came up with a very, very, very good argument. I mean, if I work so hard throughout my whole entire life to make it to a certain point, and then you want to take 80 to 85% of my income, are you crazy? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, I'm not anywhere close to being in a position where they would take my money, but I'm going to continue to work to try to get there. And I honestly think that everyone that's listening to me is trying to get there as well. And who knows, what if you win the lottery? They take 85% of your money the next year? It just doesn't make any sense. But one thing I do, what I have to commend Cornel West on is that this guy is rebuttals out of his afro, man. This guy this guy's got rebuttals to the end of any day. I mean, he brought up FDR and all these other things, and honestly, I had no idea that back then it was so high in regards to taxes for the higher class. But what I can say though is that I don't think everybody paid it, just like everybody's saying. I have to do my own research on it. However, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave comments if you can. Also, honestly, I'm gonna be using Tory Lanes at the end. Please, we got to free Tory Lanes. Free Tory Lanes. That's the new thing right now. Free Tory Lanes.
We've been at the gas station all night. They done had the bag waiting all night. Tell them that it's lit, bitch, we on fire. Ay, praise to the Most High. Ay, praise to the Most High. Send it praise to the Most High. Praise to the Most High.